I decided to go full pirate this evening.
Full nut. Fuck, I gotta remember how to play this game again.
And I got a nice little cheeseburger right here on the table.
Nice. I still have a gun.
I had 1.7 million chips, so I was like, yeah, I'll just get a new outfit. Ooh, a pair of aces.
God, I gotta remember how to play this.
Sevens and twos. Okay. Alright. Well, if you want, we could have a discussion about the DC stuff, and if Ronan pops on, he pops on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. 5432. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a long time to an episode of One Matt, One Steve. My name is Matt. Joining me tonight is Steve.
Yeah, we are missing a Matt.
He's on call right now, so we think he might be at work, but he might pop on at any time. So
He
if
also
he
could have
does,
just ditched us.
quite
You know.
possible for fish. We're more important than fish, but he doesn't know that, or he doesn't believe it. Poor guy.
Based on whose assessment? Like, who ranks us above fish?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we are less than fish.
Probably.
So tonight we are just going to have a chat about all of the news that's going on with DC, the DCEU, James Gunn. What's going to happen going forward? Is James Gunn making a huge mistake by taking on DC and trying to reboot? Or if he's even rebooting this universe, we're gonna have a conversation about that. And then if Ronan pops on, maybe we can talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because I know that we all saw that. So we'll wait to discuss that if he pops
Guardians is Ronan's baby.
on. Yeah. So I went and I'll sort of start this by saying I went to see The Flash.
I'm sorry.
Now, the reason I went to see The Flash was because I have a monthly program that I'm in part of with our local theater here in Nebraska. And basically, in order to make the monthly fee worth it, I have to see basically 3 movies a month to justify the cost per month of this. And it's your typical rewards program. You get to get into movies cheap, and you get free movies and things of that nature. So The Flash, I'd been hearing for many years. The Flash was made, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been done for a long time. And during the pandemic, that kind of got it pushed back and everything. And I'd been hearing for a long time online that people were saying this movie's incredible. Like, it is an incredible movie.
I recall hearing that as well.
Yes, and then as it got closer and closer, obviously we know there are issues with Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller kind of went a little crime spree happy during that time, and there was a big discussion. Well, what should DC do? Should there be a recast? Do they deep fake a different actor on there? Do they stick with Ezra Miller as the Flash?
Team deep fake.
Yeah. But DC decided, no, we're holding firm. This movie's so amazing, it's going to blow everyone away, and we're going to keep Ezra Miller in the role. And as it got closer and closer, even James Gunn came out and was like, this is an incredible movie. One of the greatest superhero movies of all time, from James Gunn. And I note that because James Gunn, I think, has a kind of unassailable reputation amongst comic book fans, especially fans of the movie. His films are generally very well received. People really love the Guardians movies. They love the Suicide Squad. James Gunn is kind of seen as someone who's, not a liar, as it were. So, I was actually looking forward to The Flash. I like the Michael Keaton Batman movies. I like Michael Keaton as Batman. I was excited to see Michael Keaton come back as Batman. So I went into it with, all right, I don't think it'll be the greatest superhero movie of all time, but maybe I will be very pleasantly surprised, and maybe it'll be a very entertaining movie. I left The Flash thinking that it should be called The Trash because I thought it was so fucking terrible in just about every way. And I'm going to go ahead and spoil a bit of what happens in this movie.
Yeah, no, this will be fun. Matt, give the Plotticus plot synopsis. Cover everything.
Everything. Oh, geez, everything. Okay, I'll try. So, essentially, The Flash starts out with Barry Allen is... Well, they establish right at the very beginning that The Flash's powers are basically based on how much food and calories he has consumed. So, he must eat all the time in order for him to be able to have super speed. Otherwise, he just gets too tired and he can't run fast, right? So he's trying to get this this meal at like a local Starbucks sort of place, and Alfred from Batman's butler calls him up and says like, hey, look, there is a Gotham General Hospital is like basically blowing up. You got to come to Gotham City and save basically all these babies that are about ready to die. And Barry puts up a fight. He doesn't want to do it. He's annoyed that basically he's the Justice League's fix-it person. I guess he doesn't like being a hero, which I know is your favorite thing, Steve. You love when the heroes aren't actually they don't want to be heroes. But from the very opening of this movie, you hate Barry Allen.
Save babies? Why me? Why do I have to mess with that? That's the character we're working with?
Yes. So right up front. Now, Ezra Miller, I know the performance of Barry Allen has not been super well received, I think, by a lot of people. This is incredibly annoying and grating. So right off the bat, you're like, I do not want to follow this Flash. I don't care about the Flash. The Flash is kind of an asshole, right? So he eventually, saves the day. Barry Allen eventually gets the babies, and there was a lot of talk about the CG in this movie beforehand. This is some of the worst CG I've ever seen. This opening sequence, I mean...
But it's on purpose, according to the people that made the movie. It's bad on purpose, Matt.
Nah.
Are you pushing X to doubt?
I am pushing X to doubt, yes. This is absolutely trash. It just looks unfinished, which is weird because this movie's been finished for like 2 years. So maybe Warner Brothers was like, we're not putting any more money into this thing because we know it will bomb. We're gonna lie to people as much as we can to try to get them into the theaters to make as much money as we possibly can before it inevitably drops off. In The Flash, I mean, they can drop like 72% its second weekend. Like, it is a unmitigated disaster for Warner Brothers Discovery. Anyways, Barry's dad obviously is in jail for the alleged murder of his mother. Of course, Barry knows that wasn't what happened. His dad is coming up for Barry's trying to find some evidence to allow him to exonerate him, and eventually Barry finds out that he can run so fast that he actually opens up this, I can't remember what they exactly call it, it's kind of like a time bubble or something. And he runs so fast that he sees basically all of the stuff he's been doing in his past, and it freaks him out. He comes back into sort of like the present, and he goes to Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, and he says, look, I can run so fast, I can change time. This is the thing we railed on for the television show for many, many years. It's like, again, why is the Flash so stupid? Like, why are we doing this story again where the Flash is going to go back in time and fuck everything up? So basically, what does Batman say? Batman's like, dude, no, don't do that. And he's like, look, Bruce, I can go back and save your parents. I can save my parents. Everything will be fine. Now, the whole plot hinges on Barry deciding, because Batman's like, look, you go back in time and you interact with anybody at any point, and you're gonna, it's butterfly effect, right? You're gonna screw everything up in the future. So Barry comes up, Barry, who is ostensibly this genius level character. He's a crime analyst, and he's super intelligent. He decides, well, all I need to do, because his mom dies because back in the day, they went to the grocery store and they forgot a can of tomatoes. And so Barry's mom tells his dad, hey, look, can you go to the store and get me a can of tomatoes? And while the dad is away, that's when somebody comes and kills the mom. Now, we never see, they never hint that it's Reverse Flash or anything like that. You never see anything like that in here. But that's what happens. So Barry's grand plan is, I'm going to go back to the grocery store, and I'm just going to take a can of tomatoes, and I'm going to place it in the cart. And it'll be like, no one ever saw me, and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll go back to my point in time, and everything will be fine. Well, obviously, things don't end up fine. That one little event, basically butterfly effects, where there are no metahumans in Barry's universe. So not only is Barry back in present time, but there is no Superman, there's no Wonder Woman, there's no anybody like that. And he runs...
Do they ever... Pause there for a second. Do they ever explain, how that happened? What was it about this can of tomatoes that resulted in no humans, or do we just accept time fuckery?
It's pretty much just time fuckery. I think they give a surface level explanation as to Barry. Basically, that Barry in that timeline never got hit by the lightning, never became a metahuman. They actually go and they show in Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, Barry was there during Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel when Zod was destroying Metropolis. That was when Barry was first the Flash and trying to use his powers to save people and stuff. But in that universe, that never happened, and it sort of butterfly effects that, well, eventually I'll get there, but Superman never makes it. Zod intercepts baby Clark in space and kills Superman as a baby, and nothing ever happens that way. So the only actual character that was in this universe was Batman, because Batman, as Michael Keaton, has been there since the 80s doing stuff. And so everybody in this universe, they don't have no idea who's Superman.
No fucking sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
How does Barry Allen getting a can of tomatoes change shit that happened on Krypton?
Don't worry about it.
I'm sure that's the movie's answers to that question too.
So Barry gets back. First, of course, his mom and dad are alive and living together happily, and he's all excited. But he doesn't realize that there's another version of him that is there, and this version of Barry Allen is the most... He plays a dude bro version of Barry Allen. Imagine a 17-year-old frat boy making horrible jokes, cringy dialogue. This Barry Allen is spoiled. He, has had everything handed to him on a silver platter. Apparently, he has not learned anything from his parents. His parents apparently have been awful, because he just has been raised to be this kind of conceited asshole character. So not only do we have a regular Barry Allen, who's an annoying asshole, but now this other version of Barry from this timeline is 1,000 times worse and way more annoying. There's literally a scene where our Barry Allen is talking to the younger Barry Allen in his room, trying to explain what's going on, and the younger Barry Allen's like, do the thing. And our Barry Allen builds a pillow fort in his room and encapsulates young Barry in it, and we're talking like 17-year-old young Barry in it, and he starts laughing like a stoner. He thinks it's just so bad. It's so fucking bad. So basically, our Barry realizes, oh shit, we're going to have to make you get struck by lightning, because if you don't get struck by lightning, then all this other stuff doesn't end up happening, and that's going to even be, because Batman warned me, things will get even worse if you're not struck by lightning. So he's trying to take this younger Barry to the point where he gets hit by the lightning, because our Barry loses all of his powers. And so, where am I at here? Yeah, so basically, the young Barry gets powers, and of course, when you're a brand new superhero with all these powers, and you're conceited and whatever, you just do whatever you want. So half this movie is our Barry trying to rein in and make sure that young Barry does not do stupid shit with all of these new powers. So, from that point, Zod shows up, and our Barry realizes, oh shit, there's no metahumans in this timeline. Superman's not here. So, at this point, Barry thinks, oh well, Superman is on our planet. He just hasn't been freed yet. Like somebody's got him, and then they gotta find him. So he's like, well, who can help me find it? So he's like, well, let's go find Batman. And that's how they find Michael Keaton Batman. Michael Keaton Batman, when you first meet him, is how do I describe this? He basically has quit. He's got long hair, scraggly beard, doesn't want to help. Again, another superhero doesn't want to help. We got to go through this stupid bullshit over and over and over on all these movies. But eventually they decide to get Michael Keaton on board, and he says, okay, fine, I'll help you go find this Superman character. Because again, Michael Keaton's Batman's like, what are you talking about? There's no Justice League here. None of this ever happened. So Michael Keaton's Batman, world's greatest detective, finds out where they're keeping Superman. So they all go to Russia to free Superman out of this big giant. So basically, did you ever read that Superman Red Sun comic book line?
Yes, where he's Russian.
Yeah, they take elements of that. But in this one, when they open up this sort of pod, the Russians are experimenting on this Kryptonian. They think it's Superman, but it turns out it's actually not. It's Supergirl. And so they free her. She hates humans because humans have kept her locked up for who knows how many years. She's all emaciated and she looks all like, basically like she's on death's door. But they bring her out. Then we're going to have lots of hijinks where the two Barrys think she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And of course, this becomes important because young Barry, this is never established in this movie, but it becomes important at the end of the movie. Young Barry from this timeline is just head over heels for Supergirl. Just head over heels for her. And we're supposed to believe that he somehow fell in love with Supergirl during the course of like 45 minutes in this movie, where nothing is ever shown that that's the case. It's more just like, oh, she's so hot, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of depth we're dealing with on this movie. So basically, Batman agrees to help the two Flashes, and Supergirl gets on board. That Zod's here. Zod's just going around killing humans. He's got the terraformers from Man of Steel, and he's starting to terraform the Earth to turn it into the new Krypton or whatever. And so we have this mini Justice League that is going to go fight Zod and do Zod. So Supergirl shows up. Of course, she's the most powerful one, and Zod just murders her. Straight up murders her, which I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Like, I wasn't expecting like Zod to just kill her. So during this fight, young Barry is aghast that Supergirl has been killed. This woman that he now loves, or something.
Do both Barrys have powers at this point, or
yes.
Is it still okay?
Mm-hmm. So our Barry gets his powers back because he asked Batman, look, you're the only person, you got to recreate the events that got me my powers. So Michael Keaton's like, fine, I'll hook you up to an electric chair and we'll splash you with a bunch of stuff, kind of similar to the Flashpoint storyline. It doesn't work, but then Supergirl picks up Barry and flies him up into the sky, and he gets hit directly with a lightning bolt, and then that's how he gets his powers. So we have 2 Flashes now with Flash powers. So getting back to Zod, Supergirl just she gets killed by Zod, and then young Barry just he's freaked out. He's like, no, we can go back in time. We can fix this. Now, I'll back up a little bit. There's a couple moments in this one when our Barry is going back sort of in the Speed Force, and there is this, what I can almost say is almost like the Black Racer. It's what it kind of looks like. Something's coming after him. It's like spiky. It's like a Flash version of Super Shredder, kinda. I don't know if you've seen what this looks like. It looks really stupid.
I've seen the toys of it.
It's got spikes all over it. It's all black. It's like, raw, just coming through. And Barry's like, what the hell? Like, what is this? So, fast forward. Young Barry is smitten with Supergirl. He cannot believe that she keeps dying. In the meantime, our Batman keeps dying. So no matter what Michael Keaton does, he keeps dying. So young Barry's like, no, we got to keep going back in the past. We got to keep doing this over and over and over until we get it right. Until we figure out how, what sequence of events occur that allow Zod to die and Supergirl to live. So this keeps going on and on over and over and over again. Well, while this is happening, young Barry is essentially... This is hard to explain. It's time travel, so I might not be exactly right. The crazy evil version of the Flash that keeps popping up is the young version of Barry, who has gone back and replayed this fight with Zod over so many times that he's now old and fucked up. And he comes to the realization at the very end when he shows up that the only way, like, this keeps not working because our Barry keeps saying, no, we got to stop doing this. This is they I can't remember the phrase that they use, but it's a moment in time that cannot be changed. There is our Barry's like, there is no scenario in which Zod actually loses here. This is part of, the timeline. You just cannot change it, where young Barry refuses to accept it. And eventually, young Barry, now as old evil Flash, who shows up, confronting them both. It's like this just
sounds like the Savitar story from the
Flash
series,
yes,
which was also awful.
Yes, it's basically Savitar. But he shows up and he basically tells them the only thing that, no matter what I've done over the many, many years I've been doing this, it always comes down to our Barry refuses to keep fighting. That's what caused it. And he believes that's the reason why Supergirl and Batman keep dying, is because you give up. And I'm not going to let you give up, blah, blah. So they fight, and then they go into this weird, basically what evil Flash, all the stuff that he's doing is causing all of the multiverses to smash into each other and die. Basically, the Flash is causing the entire unraveling of all of all realities. So that's when you go into this weird time bubble and you see the Nicolas Cage version of Superman fighting the big giant spider that from Kevin Smith's story of back in the 90s when Tim Burton was going to do that or whatever. Although it's not Nicolas Cage, it's CG face Nicolas Cage. You see Christopher Reeve show up from that version of Superman, from that universe, and all these different things, and it looks fucking awful. It just is straight up trash. It looks so bad. And when people are actually saying like this looks like PS2 level CG, that's absolutely the case. I mean, there were people laughing in the theater when we were watching this, like, I can't believe this got past this sort of thing. So ultimately, basically what happens, of course, our Barry kind of saves the day. I'm struggling to even remember what he does to do that, honestly. Oh no, I remember. Okay, so our young Barry suddenly suddenly gets a conscience and jumps in front of Evil Flash as he's trying to kill our Barry, sacrifices himself, which then kills the old Flash, because now the old Flash no longer exists because young Barry killed himself. Right? It's so stupid. So then Barry decides to go back in time. He removes the can of tomatoes from that moment. There's actually a nice scene there with him and his mom. I would say that something that does work in the movie is Barry's relationship to his mom. And there's a nice scene at the end when he's basically got to say goodbye to her and stuff like that. He removes the can and then he goes back to the normal timeline. So he gets there, everything's fine, everything's back the way it's supposed to be. He goes to the courthouse, and Batman was able to somehow exonerate with special technology to recreate the security camera footage from 20 years ago. Batman was able to provide the evidence that Barry's dad actually didn't kill his mom, so there's a happy ending. They're leaving the courthouse, and Bruce Wayne calls him up. He's like, "Hey, I'm pulling up," and the Flash is like, "Great! I can't wait to talk to you about everything that just happened. I got crazy shit." So then Bruce Wayne gets out of the car, and it is George Clooney. It's not Ben Affleck, and so the Flash is like, "Well, what's going on?" And looks at him and is like, "Are you Batman?" And then George Clooney like gives him a look, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And then that's how it ends. So it didn't actually get fixed. He's in a different timeline now, where with the George Clooney Batman, possibly. They don't explicitly state that it's the George Clooney Batman, but it is George Clooney that comes out. Now, if you stick till after the credits, Barry is at a bar, and there is a drunk Aquaman at this bar. And they're kind of leaving the bar, and Barry tells Aquaman, he's like, "Look, every universe I've gone to, every single one, everybody's been different. There's been a different, there's a different Batman, there's a different Wonder Woman, there's a different, whoever else you're looking at or trying to bring up." He's like, "But Aquaman is always you. In every single universe, you are the same." Which obviously is setting up that in this new DCU, Jason Momoa will be Aquaman. So we're going to continue on with him. You do see Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman does pop up here at the very beginning. There's kind of like a big chase sequence when the Flash is helping the Justice League after the hospital thing. So you see most of the Justice League, although they're like, no Henry Cavill, right? They're like, he's off helping stop a volcano from erupting. So you get a little bit of Justice League stuff in it, but that's basically the Flash. And the reason why I bring up that the whole conceit of this movie is stupid, at the very beginning, we also get Iris in here. There's no reason Iris even needed to be in this. She shows up for like 2 scenes, and there's no chemistry between her and Ezra Miller whatsoever. It's just awkward and weird. But the beginning of this movie establishes that the Flash must eat constantly to keep up his power levels. He's actually got a fucking watch that literally says, "Oh, calories high," right? Now I got full Flash powers. And in the middle of him trying to save all these babies, he stops. Well, by stop, he's running so fast. He's like breaking into the candy machine, and he's shoving candy bars and drinking soda as fast as he can to get all of his calories up, and so that he can actually save all of the babies. And yet at the end of this movie, young Barry Allen can go back in time over and over and over again without eating anything at all, because that's what we need for the plot to make any sense whatsoever. So, fuck this movie. It was terrible. It was not one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Ezra Miller was terrible. The story is terrible. Michael Keaton was cool. It was cool to see Michael Keaton on there. I think I don't know who the actress is that plays Supergirl. I thought she was really good. And there are definitely like moments in this movie you're like, okay, that's cool. But the CG is so bad. It just goes on and on and on. It makes no sense at the end. They're just silly decisions. I hated it. So that's my
Time travel, yeah.
Yeah, this time travel stuff not working. It's funny because I told Alyssa, because she's like, well, what's the story about? I was like, oh, the Flash goes back in time and fucks things up again. And she's like, they're doing that same story. They did that for like 9 seasons on the television show. Oh, God. So that's that. Another awful entry in the DCEU, which is, I guess, segueing. No, are you ever gonna watch The Flash? Do you have any interest in watching this movie?
No, I mean, I think we talked about The Flash like 6 or 7 months ago on one of these, and like even then I was like, no, like I don't care about live action DC anymore. Like I only watched the Batman to talk about it, and I thought that was shitty too. Like I don't know that I'm ever going to watch this. I don't know that I'm ever going to watch anything live action DC again.
Well, that's a interesting take, because I kind of want to segue into the future that's upcoming. So it looks like James Gunn, obviously he's rebooting it, the DCU, and that'll be the first official film will be Superman Legacy that comes out in 2025 that he's writing and directing, I believe. But there is this weird thing where he's not quite cutting the cord on the DCEU. He's taking some of the actors that were in that and bringing it over into this sort of new DC universe. Like Jason Momoa is going to be Aquaman going forward. I saw some rumors that Gal Gadot is basically saying, she's hinting that she's going to continue being Wonder Woman in this. Obviously, they fired Henry Cavill. He's not going to be their Superman. They've cast somebody else as Superman in this. Ben Affleck's not coming back as Batman. There's going to be a completely different Batman. That's not the Robert Pattinson Batman. That's its own separate, weird Elseworlds universe tale and thing. So my question to you is there any way that this succeeds? James Gunn, obviously, we have a lot of faith that James Gunn can make a good movie. I mean, I think he's shown that he can make good movies. So I would tend to believe, he could make a good Superman movie. I'm sure he could. But will anybody give a shit? The box office tallies of all of these DC movies just keeps going down and like dropping like a rock. And now we're going to reboot this. It reminds me of what people were talking about with Spider-Man when they rebooted the Tobey Maguire ones with Andrew Garfield, and then a few years after that, Tom Holland popped up, and people were like, Jesus, how many times are we going to just keep rebooting Spider-Man over and over again? Now we're having multiple Batmen, multiple Supermen. Will anybody care? Steve, the floor is yours.
I think people will absolutely care if they get one right. Like, people were complaining about the 3 Spider-Man we now have, and those complaints lasted until they found the perfect Spider-Man. So I think all James Gunn has to do is to nail one of these movies for the interest to come back. Will he nail any of these movies? I don't know. He called The Flash the greatest superhero movie ever made, and you're telling me that he is a liar. So I made the comment. Have a lot of faith.
He's very Todd Howard-esque right now. It just works. It just works, guys.
I mean, the Flash bombed the way it bombed after months of hype and absolutely everyone who had seen the movie singing its praises. Again, he's only got to get one right for I think the interest to come back. For most people, not all. I mean, I definitely believe there's other people like me that are just like, nah, I'm out. Just miss me on the rest of the DC EU or Cinematic Universe or whatever. But no, I think the interest will still be there if he nails one. I just don't think he will.
I'm kind of curious because we're kind of living in a day and age right now where people are really thinking that superhero fatigue is a problem. And
Yes.
I think Marvel honestly is killing the superhero genre just by the extreme amount, like the glut of shit that they're putting out there. I think people are just getting sick of it. I think people are like, I don't want to follow. Like, Secret Invasion is out, right? I haven't, like, 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been like, absolutely, let's fire up Secret Invasion. I'm in. I want to watch this. I have no desires to watch Secret Invasion at all. And I saw some news articles said it's one of the lowest rated Marvel shows in terms of viewership that's been on Disney Plus yet. And I think people are just so over it. There's no compelling storyline in Marvel. Like, no one gives a shit about Kang the Conqueror. There's just nothing there. And now you're telling me that, okay, DC is going to reboot all of their stuff again, and James Gunn has outlined a 10-year plan and announced like 15 new movies that are coming out that are all going to connect. And if you're asking just a regular like person, I have to follow a whole new thing, like from scratch. I think people are just tired. I think they need to take a break from superhero movies, honestly, for a few years and
no,
then
I
bring
agree.
them back.
I feel like there needs to be limits placed on it. Like if I was head of Marvel Studios or whatever, it would be like you get 2 movies and 1 Disney Plus show max every year. And clearly they're not going to do that. But I think that's what like has to happen because everyone's tired of it. I look at the MCU now, and it's just as hard to follow as the actual comics now. Like, if I want to be up to date on everything happening in the Marvel Comics universe, like, what is that, like 30 issues a month of various titles I would have to buy to follow up on to understand that. And now it seems like there's never a period of time where there's not something new in the MCU, either in theaters or on Disney Plus. It's gotten too much. And once you get behind, it feels so daunting to try to catch up. And I think, I'm kind of out on the MCU too. I've become very picky about what MCU stuff I will watch now. Partially, it's superhero fatigue. The other part of it is there's just too much. It has reached the point where I look at the MCU in the same way I look at the actual comics. Dial it back, hit the pause button, cut the titles. Like there are obvious superheroes that no one gives a shit about. No one cares about the Eternals. You can just let that dream die. Like, half the Disney Plus shows are just like placeholders. Let it go. There's too much.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think that what they should have done is, as soon as Endgame was over, that's where they should have taken a break for a few years, right? And then let people sort of like catch their breath, be like, okay, and then build up that anticipation. Well, what's next? And they should have really done an interesting plan for what story were they going to tell? Because all of the Marvel stuff, phases 1 through 3, those all took multiple years, right? Phase 4 was like, here's 1,000 hours of content crammed in the space of 2 years. Make sure you're up on all of it. And then, oh, by the way, now we're in phase 5, and we're gonna cram a bunch of shit into this as well. And none of it, like, there was no build. There was no allowing these new characters to breathe. There was no any of that. I don't know if this was a Disney directive or if it was just Kevin Feige saying, hey, we're going to strike while the iron's hot. Everyone loves the MCU so much, they'll eat up anything we throw out there. But it didn't feel like they allowed it to organically sort of grow. And I think a lot of these new characters they introduced, I just don't think they connected with anybody. Like, I liked Moon Knight. I don't know that I'm, oh my god, I must have a new Moon Knight. Like, people are like, when am I going to see Iron Man again? I want to see Iron Man again. When am I going to see Spider-Man? I'm excited for that. Moon Knight, I like the character, but I'm like, I'm not dying to see another Moon Knight thing. It's just
the
weird.
problem with live action in general. Like, Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for what, 60 years now? That's not really gonna fly in a live action or in a universe where people age in real time. Like, eventually they gotta go, and that just seems like an eventuality that Marvel wasn't ready for. Like, I kind of feel like all of the original Avengers have knockoff versions of them in the MCU now. Like,
Yeah.
And if it was their plan to just have, when Thor leaves, we'll have Hercules fill his spot, and when Iron Man leaves, we'll have Ironheart fill his spot, and so on and so on. And if that was their plan, then I don't know what it was. It clearly did not succeed. It's no one is singing the praises of the MCU anymore. And I think going back to just the talk about Phase 4, I feel like they could have maybe avoided some of this if they had just come out from the beginning and said, yeah, Phase 4 is a bunch of standalones. There is no... Phase 4 is not building to an Avengers movie. We're introducing new characters, we're kind of resetting, and then we'll see what happens in Phase 5. But I feel like they didn't do that because that's also kind of saying, yeah, feel free to skip who you want.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It felt like Marvel got so many props for quote unquote having a plan. Obviously, they altered it along the way as things happened, but it felt like, okay, we introduce the end of Avengers. That the Thanos is the villain, right? We are building to Thanos showing up. Now all these movies have their own little individual stories, but sprinkled in here, it's like, okay, we're seeing where this is going. Phase 4, they introduce Kang in Loki, but they don't even call him Kang, and it just seems like so weird and anticlimactic. And then it's like, okay, boom, Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man Quantumania. And it's like the dude is fucking taken out by a bunch of ants in his first appearance. This is the character I'm supposed to be excited for a build Avengers level threat for. Like, why am I scared of Kang when I just saw a bunch of ants take him out in Ant-Man 3, right? So it seems like the planning that they had for this next thing, they just threw it out the window or something, and I don't understand why. I would love to get Kevin Feige in a room with some truth serum and be like, was this a directive from Disney? We want more Avengers movies as fast as possible, so just push this stuff out as quickly as possible? Or was Kevin Feige just drunk on his own power and like, geez, everything I touch turns to gold, and now I'm going to introduce all this other stuff and like nobody cares? And I've heard it argued that Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., was kind of like the heart of the MCU, that a lot of people followed the MCU primarily for Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr., and then you kill him in Endgame, which is a great ending. It's a great ending. But I think a lot of people lost interest in the Avengers when there's no more Iron Man. I think Iron Man was such a popular character that's like, does anyone want Ironheart as a replacement? No, I don't think so. You know? So I honestly don't know where this stuff goes. But Marvel does have an ace up its sleeve if they do it right. That's the X-Men. If they could get the X-Men right, that will bring people back.
Fuck up the X-Men. Yeah, X-Men has always been my favorite comic. I will, no matter how out I am on the MCU, when they say, hey, the X-Men movie is coming out next week, I will be in the theater to watch that motherfucker. And if they nail it, I will be back in on the MCU as long as it continues to be built around the X-Men. If they ruin the X-Men, Matt knows this about me. I have no fucking problem just like cutting my losses and saying
Yeah.
I'm done with that franchise. Like I can see myself being done with the MCU if they mess up the X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, surely they can't. Like, they have to be. I would think that someone at Disney has got to be recalibrating and be like, look, we are losing money on these movies now. Even Guardians 3 didn't even hit $1 billion, you know, and it's like, Spider-Man No Way Home was like the last big hit that the MCU had, and that's a Sony movie. Marvel didn't even make most of the money off that. It was Sony that got most of the money. That was like the last big thing. Everything after that, and I think you nailed it on the head like years ago when we were talking about this. You were worried about this multiverse shit. You're like, it's gonna get so fucking confusing, and it's gonna get so out there and wild, and that people are they're not gonna follow it religiously because it's too complicated to figure out. Well, we're gonna get a new Fantastic Four, and so wait, John Krasinski's not Mr. Fantastic, but I just saw him as Mr. Fantastic in that Doctor Strange movie. So what's happening? Are they recasting? No, this is a different version of this, and blah blah. Now I will say I saw Across the Spider-Verse, and that movie explains multiverse stuff 1,000 times better than anything that Marvel has done. And I think that movie is done in such a way where it makes it very easy for someone to follow and understand what the multiverse is and why there are so many different versions of a similar character. Marvel has not really done that. And so I think a lot of people are just pretty confused. And the movies haven't been that good. Let's also throw that as a big factor. I mean, Ant-Man Quantumania was trash. I don't think a lot of people like Doctor Strange. I mean, I love Sam Raimi, but Doctor Strange I don't think hit like they thought it was going to hit. And, Eternals, a lot of people hated the Eternals, and a lot of the Disney Plus shows that people were excited by were just not that good. And you get burned so many times, you're like, well, why am I going to invest my time in all this other hours and hours and hours of content you want when you've been burning me over and over and over with these shitty,
Weird,
like
that's
mediocre
a strange
products?
Stance to have.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange.
No, that is the correct stance to have.
Perhaps. But my argument to that would be, there are so many diehard MCU fans that are always going to be MCU fans. It doesn't matter how many times they're going to get burned, they're going to keep watching, because there will eventually be something good that comes back around. There's going to be something that really blows people away. I mean, whenever the next Spider-Man movie comes out, Spider-Man 4, right? There's going to be tons of people that are going to flock to the theaters to see that just because No Way Home was so great and people loved it. If all these Marvel movies were still hitting on really high quality, I think this wouldn't be a problem. People would take that extra time to invest in, okay, exactly what is going on here with this multiverse. If Kang was presented as any sort of a threat at all, maybe they'd be like, okay, we're leading to an Avengers Kang Dynasty movie. That sounds cool. Let's follow what this guy does. But no, they didn't do that. Just making bad choices after bad choices. So yeah, and I think Marvel is hurting DC in terms of, number one, people don't really give a shit about DC characters anyway unless it's Batman, and I'm actually questioning that now, because I would have thought for sure that the Michael Keaton Batman would have gotten people into the theaters, if nothing else than for nostalgia and people who loved seeing Michael Keaton back in the day as Batman. Like, Michael Keaton is their Batman, and it bombed. So I'm just kind of like, I don't even understand. Like, they're putting Batman in this stuff, and they can't even get people to go to the movie theaters to go see this stuff. So is DC dead? I guess that's where my question is. Is DC, like, even if this Superman movie, if James Gunn knocks Superman out of the park, right? Just knocks it out of the park, like, okay, this is the Superman that all the Superman fans have always wanted to see, not snapping Zod's neck at the end and betraying like the ideals that made them love the character growing up. If it's awesome, are people gonna go see it? do people really care about Superman that much that they're going to go out and it's going to make it $1 billion for a Superman movie? I don't know. I don't even think the Robert Pattinson Batman movie made $1 billion. I don't know.
It sucked.
I didn't
Fuck
think it
that
sucked.
movie.
I didn't think it
Movie
sucked.
sucked.
I thought it was all right. Any listener out there, you can go listen. We have a whole episode on it, Two Matts, One Steve. Check out the archives where we talk about the Batman. But I mean, are you excited for Green Lantern?
I mean, Green Lantern's my favorite DC hero. I will be curious about it. Am I excited? No. There's plenty of... So this is like, DC puts out great to phenomenal animated stuff. And I don't know why they can't bring that same magic to their live action stuff. But there's already like 3 or 4 like really good to great Green Lantern animated movies on HBO Max right now that I can go watch anytime that I want. This is like not necessarily the same topic that we started with, but I kind of like don't feel that like, what's the allure of having something live action now when 75% of it's green screen CGI anyway? So I feel like I can get the same amount of enjoyment out of a Green Lantern animated movie than I would get out of like a Green Lantern live action movie, even if the live action movie was really good.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. You know, when I left the theater of Cross the Spider-Verse, I was actually like completely floored by what I had just seen. Like I could not believe, you know, I liked Into the Spider-Verse, and I went into that very skeptical, as you know, with all the different spider people and stuff. I was like, I'm just not a fan of this whole thing. You know, it's no longer, Peter Parker's no longer unique when there's an infinite number of spider people. But that movie turned me into a believer, and I thought it was just pretty, you know, incredible visually. But like Across the Spider-Verse was 1,000 times better than Into the Spider-Verse. I couldn't believe it. Even the animation of it was incredible. And for example, I'm actually interested to see that new Ninja Turtles movie coming out, just because the animation style looks so cool on it. And you know, I think Jeff made an interesting point in our chat room where he kind of made the argument, because he was also a big believer in Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, it is incredible. Where he's just like, comic books are an artistic medium. So would these films be better if they're done in like the art style? Like, what if you had a Spider-Man movie, but it was done in like Todd McFarlane art style? Or something like that, right? Or any type of art style attributed to a particular character that's beloved, John Romita or Jr. or Senior of Spider-Man or something like that. Would it lend itself better? The stories lend itself better. I think people are a little bit more forgiving of weird, crazy stuff that happens in an animated movie because it's sort of hyper-realistic. They know it's not quote-unquote realistic. Whereas they're not as forgiving if it's live action and supposedly grounded in reality in a way. So I think there's a good argument to be made that, yeah, animated stuff might actually be the best way to tell superhero stories. And I will say that the success of like Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, in terms of animated, Disney themselves, they folded like in the 90s. They got rid of their traditional cell animated, hand-drawn animated stuff. People love all of that old Disney stuff. You know, Great Mouse Detective and The Lion King and Little Mermaid and all that animated style. They got rid of it. Why don't these companies bring that shit back? It's clear people like to see that kind of stuff. The success of Across the Spider-Verse, that's made way more money than The Flash. It seems like there's a desire for it, and I think it would freshen up the superhero genre a little bit, where it's like, okay, we're not seeing this. Let's just, you know, let's do animated stuff for a few years, big screen animated stuff, and see where it goes. Fuck it, I'm doing it, all in. But yeah, I agree. I think that animated is kind of like my preferred way to watch stuff. Like I was watching X-Men the animated series a while back, just watching that the old animated stuff from the '90s, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, I love this. And I think they have another one coming out, right? Like they're doing X-Men '97 or something in the same
they're
style.
reviving. Yeah, they're reviving the animated series.
So
yeah, bring on the animated stuff. Like DC had an animated universe for like 10 years. Oddly enough, it also started with a Flashpoint movie. But there's an animated DC universe for a solid 10 years or so, and everything in it was really good. Some of it was great, and every single one of them was better than the live action bullshit that they were churning out at that time. So yeah, I think I'm all in on do more animated stuff and less live action, because half of your live action stuff is going to be animated anyway.
Yeah. And the animation, I mean, there's a lot of bad CG in Quantumania. Let me tell you. I don't know what they decided to do with MODOK. But it just looks bad.
MODOK was awesome. I like Ant-Man 3.
You're crazy.
I didn't say it was good. I said I liked Ant-Man 3.
You're crazy. I don't know if Ronan watched Ant-Man 3, so we'll wait for him for a show to discuss Ant-Man 3. But I don't know. Listeners, let us know what you think. Are you excited about James Gunn's DCU and the 15 films that he's announced that we're going to have to follow as part of this interconnected universe, which he also said the video games are going to be part of it, the animated stuff's all going to be part of it, there's also going to be Elseworld stuff.
No, it absolutely will not. No.
He's basically taking he's actually taking the Disney Star Wars model. Because Star Wars right now is like the video games, the comics, the books, the movies, it's all canon. Everything connects and interacts with each other. Marvel, the MCU doesn't really do that. Marvel doesn't say, oh yeah, everything that's in the comic books is also canon with what's going on in our cinematic universe. So I do think it's interesting that he's taken that track where it's like, no, every single piece of content is going to be interconnected. It's too much for people. It's just too much. I gotta follow Star Wars, and I gotta follow the MCU. Now I gotta follow DC stuff, giant universes. No, not gonna happen. Sorry. That's all I have. Do you have anything you want to talk about with this?
DC sucks. Star Wars sucks. The end.
And cut.